Okay.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jonathan, and yes, I brought a couple of colleagues, friends, and I would say I'm more of a fan. Like I've been watching them for a while, but if you ever been on YouTube and if you ever really watched a few financial videos about real estate or debt payoff. And if you're married, they'll probably come up. And they're known on YouTube as Black Married Debt Free. And Shyra and Marcus. For me, I love the fact that YouTube allows you to get to connect with people where you feel like you've known these people for a while. So I've watched their story blossom, and we're going to talk about a few things today. But definitely before we jump in, tell us a little bit about Black Married Debt Free, how you guys kind of got started on your journey, all that stuff, and who you are.
Cool. Jonathan, thank you, man, for having us on. Man, me and Shyra, we started our platform Black Married and Debt Free kind of organically. We paid off our debt in 2017, and we were so excited. We wanted to kind of go back and like maybe talk about what we did, and we weren't sure how we wanted to do it, but we knew people were using YouTube to like, kind of vlog and tell stories and stuff. So we said, let's just turn on the camera and try it. And we did that. And I think we have like our first video is still up where I say, we're going to turn on the camera. If we like it, cool. If we don't, we'll just get rid of it and just act like this never happened. So long story short, man, we just kept it going. People kind of, responded to it well. And so we just kept going and sharing stories and tips and started a podcast soon after. Instagram, we're pretty active there. So now we just kind of share our story. We get to talk to amazing people, people like yourself. We get to interview people on our podcast. So it's just become a part of our lives now, kind of what we do, talking about financial literacy and talking about building wealth, making it a very normal conversation. So, that's pretty much it.
I love it. I love it. And like I said, we'll get into it, but you'll find that they're really just kind of like you. They're like it's not like he's an athlete or something. And she was Miss America 2 times over or something. Although they made, like I said, they looked the part. So you mentioned you paid off debt. How much debt did you pay off, and what kind of how long did that take?
Shy, I'll let you get into it.
Oh Lord, it's been so many years. We just say 6-figure debt, but it was a little bit over that.
Yeah.
And so we were able to pay off my student loan debt. And the credit cards that we had at the time. And then also we had purchased a condo, and we purchased the condo shortly after the market crash. What was that? Like 2000?
2009.
We probably purchased around 2009.
August.
Okay, so it's starting to recover.
Yeah, but we got a really good deal on that condo. We paid that condo off. So when we say Black Married Debt Free, when we started, we were really debt free. So where we lived was paid off, no student loan debt, none of that. And so that process took us about 2.5 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. 2.5 years. Hard labor. And then it wasn't even, if it was 2008, 2009, that was just ugly.
Yeah. Well, we didn't really get serious about paying off the debt until 2015.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So in 2015 is when I was working 2 full-time jobs, and then like I'm like a serial hustler. I thought I could like work myself into, oh man, I'll just get something else. But then I got burnt out. And so I had to let one go. And then at that point, we realized like, man, we don't have enough income coming in. And so we had to like get serious about it and think of ways to dig ourselves out of that hole. So then from 2015 to 2017, we were really serious about paying off debt, paid off our smallest debt first, and just kept, ballooning it up, rolling it into the next one. And then 2017, we were able to, that's when we paid off everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing you said, it was kind of bulk of it was the student loans.
The biggest debt was our mortgage.
The condo.
Okay, the mortgage.
Next to that was definitely the student loan.
Student loan.
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, that's one of the things that again, you can get people to pay off their credit cards. You can really get them to pay off the car loan. I mean, that's like a win. But when it comes to that student loan, it's mentally where you are. So how did you handle just the fact, whatever the amount is, but the fact is like, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and pay this off.
My student loan debt was around $30,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yes, that I did not need to take out that much money at the time.
Right.
You know, I was accepting just about everything that was offered to me.
Right.
And I was taking it like, just in case, you know, just let me just take this money, you know, just in case.
They're giving it out,
This,
you know.
Yeah. And that's how they give it to you. Just
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm like, well, if I don't need it, then I won't use it.
Yeah.
But we was married at the time, you know, so we was going out to eat, like, you know, going to restaurants, you know, you know,
laptops,
buying laptops. You know, I got a laptop, he got a laptop. We're going to round table, you know.
No, I get it. Like, even when I think about going through that process of getting student loans, I really think about how was it proposed to me? I'm like, it really wasn't. It was really, actually, it was proposed to me as, this is how you pay for school.
Yes.
And and it became normal. And I would even, when I go back, when I talk to kids or anything, I was like, just ask the person who's giving it to you how much student loan debt they have and what does their life look like. They might look good because the person who gave to me looked good, but as I'm older and I realized, hey, she wasn't really making that much money.
Right.
Life isn't quite what it seems. That you consider that, or for me, I would say I would consider that because that's what the future outcome is. If it was so good and so easy, then we wouldn't be having this whole debacle discussion.
Right.
But
exactly.
I do know it's a challenge. The one, I mean, it could be a good thing. Like you said, you have about 30, average is about 35 for a person, and you're in personal finance and myself. So we know, realistically speaking, $30,000, you're like, I can knock that off. You know what I mean? It's not as bad as 160. You know what I mean? So
yes.
And that's the thing that I really think is missed in the value, that I'm like, I know people have debt. And I know African American community, our incomes aren't typically as high. But the blessing in it is that you couldn't get as much as other people. So it's a little bit easier for you to get out the hole. We couldn't dig as deep a hole as most people. You know what I mean? And one $60,000 job can really change somebody's life.
Right.
So go ahead.
And that was the thing for me. So my background, you know, is I have a bachelor's degree in nutrition, and the personal finance arena was stumbled into upon having, you know, gone through a financial crisis. And so, like, everything that you said, like, folks need to consider that. And then also think about your earning potential, because I was thinking, like, when I get out of college, I'm going to make a lot of money. And no, when I got out of college, I graduated and there was a recession and I was broke and I was unemployed, you know, for a good period of time, you know? So yes, how do you manage, you know, your expectations and understand what your earning potential really is? And hopefully, you know, the folks that are coming up behind us will hear our stories and hope to make better decisions.
And like you said, really reevaluate what you're doing. It is an investment. If you're gonna take it, like, if I only paid $30,000, but my starting salary is 80, you know what I mean? I'm an engineer or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Go do that. You know what I mean? You can have a life and pay off the debt in the same year and a half. Right. If you're, you know what I'm saying, I have colleagues who've been social workers, I have colleagues who've been educators, and I'm like, you went off and got 100 or close to 100 student debt. And I'm like, dude, like, you're gonna have to make some moves. And I know you might have a passion for kids, but you're gonna have to use that teaching skill way different than in the education system, because the fact is, even though it's a noble cause to pay our teachers more, that's not gonna change tomorrow. So the reality is, it's either you're going to live differently or you're going to have to change how you work and come back to the teacher thing, which is okay. You know what I mean? So, or become a principal or whatever the case might be. So yeah, you mentioned there, and I thought it would be a good good topic of discussion because we're talking about the income. The income piece is big for our community. And like I was telling you guys before we came on, Shyra, I know you had just recently switched roles and took advantage of, like I tell everybody, this is a hot labor market. I don't think you quite understand this is a hot labor market. And when you talk about really getting the value for what you're worth, this is an exceptional time. And even Jerome Powell, I was listening to the Fed thing, he even said it's never happened in history where an unemployed person has 1.7 jobs, nearly 2 jobs for every unemployed person.
Wow.
Like, it's never happened. So knowing that information, and when you sit back and you're like, okay, average net worth of a Black person is negative 10,000, average African American makes about 41,000 a year. This is a great time where you don't even have to get a new skill job. You can do the same thing just at a different company and move your salary upwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So kind of talk a little bit about that, really maximizing the value of what's in your hand right now. Because before the natural thing was, okay, I got to bring in more money. Let me go add, like Marcus was saying, let me go add another 40 job or, work. But just, hey, this is the advantage we have right now. If we sit on it, it'll pass you by. And when the reset finish, you'll be in a deeper challenge because the cost isn't, even if it's up and it comes down, it's still going to come down higher than what it was. Yeah. That's just how our economy works. So I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on what made you kind of make that move. What was your intention? How do you really strategize getting the value for your skill set?
Yeah, I think now there's no time like the present, and there's been a lot of talk about the Great Resignation, and as people of color and Black people, we need to also think about participating in that movement. I was at a place in my career where I was not what had happened was I was passed over for a promotion for a job that I was doing in an interim way.
Right.
And because of that, I decided to level up, do a little of investing in myself. And I worked with a career coach and a resume writer to really bring out my skills. A lot of people struggle with talking about themselves and lifting themselves up. And so for me, having that outside perspective was really beneficial. And even if you are a good writer,
right,
a person that does resumes full time,
that's what they do.
That's what they do, right? Yeah. They know recruiters. They know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And so there's nothing, wrong with that. And so, it was a pretty penny, but it was worth it. It was worth it. And when I did that, I saw an increase of requests for interviews, and I was able to get another position very quickly, making more money, obviously, and actually having less responsibility.
Yes.
And so my husband really appreciated that because
he's like, do that. Right. Let's do that.
So basically I went from running a program to now I'm helping and I'm supporting a program, and I'm okay with that. It's just like, what do I need to climb the ladder for? Like, I'm not the provider, I'm the help, and I'm okay with that. In our marriage, I'm okay with that. And so making that switch and investing in myself and working with a professional, resume writer and all of that really proved beneficial. And I hope folks, don't miss this window. If you are, even right now, I have braids in my hair. I would never wear braids to my last job. You know what I'm saying? So if that's you,
they're passing a law for that though.
Yeah, but how they gonna prove it? I mean, that's just me. That's just me. You know what I'm saying? But you're right, though. We have a law. You know, you can't.
there's like a law about the natural hair or something. It's
Yeah.
being like accepted. You can't, but I don't know. It was weird,
There's
but I
a
thought it was
law,
interesting.
but what is the practice? You know, what's in practice is that
What's
people
implemented?
yeah, you know, people of color where I
Yeah.
was working are often passed over for promotion.
Yeah.
You never know why, really. It's just
Yeah.
you just, you know,
They know what to
You
say.
just wasn't what we needed right now.
Right.
Right.
I was doing the work right now, so I thought I was needed.
Right.
But no, it's like I said, it's word for word, kind of what you were saying in the video. But it just took me back to early in my career where when I was working at Bank of America, and it was a great bank, and I've had great experiences, but I learned very quickly. I'm like, I got to do a lot of work to move up whatever said ladder it is for you. And there were certain times where I did work myself extra and over and beyond, but I did that so that I could come to where I am right now and be like, look, I've already done this. You know what I mean? You guys want the skill. Don't come to me talking about, so you want the skills here. I'm not that guy because I am like, I had to start to realize I'm more of a job hopper. Like I'm like, if I'll work with what I got here and I'll try to do it. If it's a way to do it, I'll do it. But I have a hard time because again, personal finance, I'm sitting here looking, okay, if I get the job, they only going to increase my salary so much. I know what the range is. I know where I'm at right now. You're not going to pay me fairly with my degrees, experience, all that. I'm forced to go get something else outside in order to be paid. And for me, I just like being paid fairly. As long as I know I'm paid fairly, I'm good. But I'll have a hard time taking a job else. I'm like, y'all want me to work extra? I'm like, yeah. Y'all want all this extra, like you're not exceed. Why am I not exceed?
Right.
What makes a meats bad? You paid me to do this. Like, that's what I gave you.
Right. Exactly.
Where did that go out of style? But again, I know it's a little bit of, again, I'm working on myself mentally, but these are things that I just noticed over my time in my career. And I'm like, yeah, man, like it's cool if they want to talk that, and you have some genuine people that, like my wife, completely opposite. She's always been able to work her salary up, work her promotions up within the organization, completely different. But for me, I'm like, I've always said, well, there's an open market here where this job is at every company. I'll just go to one of these people. And you know, so people say, oh, you can come back. I'm like, I haven't been back. Like it's not a bad thing. I could go back, but I'm just like, after I went, because that whole thing about you go out, get the job. Oh, I'm leaving. Oh, you went and got the job. Oh, we can do it here. Yeah, but if you could do it here, you should have did it before I went and got the job.
Right.
Yeah, and that for me, integrity, it really, I'm like, I don't think you want me working for you after I didn't wait to do this. So I really think that's important. A long way of saying, hey, we really need to be open to all options on the table, especially right now, just because the desperation is there for employers, and we know wages aren't really going up as quick. And another thing that was said in that message was that's what's tagging the participation rate, because if you add in inflation, if you add in how home prices are going up and the tank going up and all the things are going up, it forces a person to be like, okay, you're not going to give me a raise, so now I got to go participate in the labor market. It will eventually solve and calm down a bit, but I don't believe this is a, this will always be there. And the second thing I like that you said was the career coach, because I think there's, again, when you're trying to maximize your career, a lot of people think you can go up. I think you could probably get to about the middle management level or whatever that equivalent is yourself. But when you start really trying to get to upper, more a little bit high per 150 plus jobs, you probably gonna need to invest the money to get someone who can speak that language, know that industry, to help you be able to translate all the stuff you know, but just look good on paper.
Exactly.
And that's the one thing that I thought was interesting, because it's, I can just fix my rate. I was like, no, you can't. you really can't, because like I know how to talk in the interview, but I'm like, what these people are looking for on this next level, yeah, I might have hit a ceiling. And so
Yep.
part of what you're doing, but that's okay, because again, you got the good product and you can go utilize this multiple times over. And if it was a pretty penny, I'm pretty sure your raise was larger than what
Yep.
you invested to
Yep.
get it. So you have to, that's an investment. You know, you always gonna weigh what I spend, what I get back in return.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you mentioned that. That I just really think that's important. And I mean, I'm even looking to invest into career coach, because it's all about maximizing the skill. I'm like, I can only get myself so far. So good. So you guys are phenomenal. You're out of debt. You built your platform. And married, got kids. You got all the things. You got all the things tugging at your time so much. But you're also you own some real estate, and again, you're Black, married, debt free. But I would even say some of the tone of your message has gone to, which is natural, to the wealth building side of the equation, which I want to spend a little bit of time there and talk about, okay, what made you really get into long distance landlording? Because if you search, you know what I mean, you see both sides of the equation. Hey, don't do it. It's a nightmare. You don't know what that person doing with your house. You can't go check on it. And then others, at the same token as you seeing don't do it, you see all these other people. Well, I got a rental in Indianapolis. I got a rental in Texas.
Yes.
They pay me just fine. Right. Like something, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that it ain't right, but there are people doing this, is what I would like to suggest. And maybe that people who don't do it aren't necessarily comfortable with it, and that's fine. But it could be opportunity, because what if you're in Cali? Like, I know a lot of people who they stay in Cali, but a lot of their rentals are Texas, North Carolina, you know, in places where the housing is a little bit less, but it allows them to get a better return on the investment. What was you guys' thoughts when you started to kind of gear up and be like, okay, I think we're going to invest in real estate. I think we're going to start getting some places out of town. Like, what was that?
Yeah. I think we'll take this question, but in hearing you talk, I noticed two mindsets. One was fear and scarcity, and one was, fearless and abundance, and so just one thing that I wanted to point out. But one of the things that we quickly learned after paying off debt was that we still had to go to work the next day. Yeah. We didn't feel different from anyone else on the freeway.
Right.
Okay.
We were still in gridlock.
You did all that to get to zero.
Yes. So that's not living like no one else. That's living like everybody else.
Yeah.
Okay. So the key really to building wealth is passive income.
Yeah.
And after paying off debt, we didn't have any passive income. And so real estate for us was, one of the keys to doing that.
Yeah. And, it's funny because we used to like to go to open houses and stuff. So we had paid off our debt, and we were like, saw an open house in the area. We was like, oh, let's pull up. So we went in there, and, we didn't want to buy, but they didn't know that. So I think the broker was there, and he was like, yeah. So you guys like this house? And we're like, no, we're just kind of looking because we live around here. I said, actually, we paid off our debt, and we're thinking about real estate investing. And then he was like, hey man, I've done it. I think we may have mentioned out of state real estate investing. He's like, I've done it. Don't do it, man. It's not good. It's not terrible. I mean, it's terrible. It's not a good idea. And so we were just listening to him, but we had already started doing the research. So we were kind of listening, looking at him side-eyed a little bit. And I'm just going to keep it 100 with you. He didn't
look like
he didn't represent us. You know what I mean?
So you already, the advice was a little bit, okay.
Right. I'm like, so you doing it. It must be something to it, or you wouldn't be in it.
It's
you know
good
what I
for
mean?
you, but it's not good.
It's not good for us, because you want me to just be a consumer and buy this house that we're looking at. That's number one.
Right.
And number two is, when you don't identify with a person, a lot of times it's hard. A lot of times you're not giving them, the sound advice that you would give someone that looked
objectively.
Objectively. So and so we took that with a grain of salt, and really that kind of empowered us to say, hey, let's double down on this thing and let's really do it.
You're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, because to speak to what you say, I think you won't a lot of things you don't know until you do them.
Yeah.
So watching all the YouTube and getting the analysis paralysis, it can be detrimental because you just think, nah, that probably I'm not going to try it because I saw X amount of videos of people saying don't do it. But then you see some content where people say, yeah. So for you, you have to just say, I'm going to give this a try. And that's what we did. We did the research while we were on our debt payoff journey. That gave us a time, gave us time to really research and think about how do we want to get into real estate investing. For us, we wanted to get into buy and hold, and we wanted to do it out of state because, like you mentioned, we live in California and it's very expensive. So we knew we could take our California income and translate it parlay it to a better area. And so that's what we did. We bought 2 homes in 2018 in North Carolina. And the first one, let's talk about the first one. We did the first one. I like to tell
which
people,
is the hardest typically,
which is the hardest. And I like to tell people, you need 4 things you need. You need your locking, your lending, your financing. If you have the money, cool. If you need to get a lender, you need to get that squared away. A real estate agent. And for us, we opted to use a property manager and then a general contractor, someone who could fix, you have access to someone who could fix things. And so if you find a good agent, he might know all those 3 of those. Yeah. So that's what luck, we lucked into that. We found an exceptional agent. He made the process simple. We did everything virtual before virtual was a thing, right? So we did that, never saw the house. And before we purchased it, we never saw the house. And we went to see the house on the day we signed the document. So that was it was such a pleasant experience that we said, let's do it again. And we came back. We did the first one in March and did the second one in October. And so we knew, man, we got something here. So we were priced out of the market. Good thing for those houses, but now we had to pivot. So we looked at another area in Alabama and took that same principle and applied it there. And then we purchased 3 homes in Alabama last year. So it's been going good for us.
There is nothing like walking into your home. That you purchased. There's nothing like it. We invest in the stock market and all. We do all of that, But when you buy, a home and you're like seeing it, for us, we're always seeing it for the first time. That's just the way that we go about it. And it's
out of state thing.
Yes, it's so fun, because one day we went to church, and then after church we went to the airport, did an overnight flight, and then went and saw the house, met with the property manager, and then get on a flight, come back home, go to work the next day, Monday, and nobody even knows,
And we, the thing about it, Jonathan, is like we're creating cash flow with real estate, and that's what we look at. So we're really getting ready to double down on the real estate thing because investing in the market, we're doing that as well. But a lot of our vehicles, like our 401k and our Roth IRA,
locked up.
Yeah, they're locked up till 59 and a half. We man, we want to be done with work well before that. So we're creating a cash flow with real estate so we can retire much sooner than 59 and a half.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was just astonished when again I'm going down y'all many lovely videos, and then that pops up. I'm like, wait a second, they got out of state rental. Let me play that back a little bit and re go into it, and then hearing some of that piece. It's the same thing. Like I said, I've discovered that same piece because it's what you, with anything, it's really what you feel comfortable with. So for me, like I'm in North Carolina, Charlotte, and if you guys still have those North Carolina homes, I know that was a sound investment because the market's just been crazy with all the building of tech coming here, and it's not slowing down anytime soon, which is a good thing. But I'm from St. Louis, and one of the things that I'm like, okay, real estate is actually cheaper there, and I know that place like the back of my hand.
There we go.
You know what I mean? I'll give me one or two places down there and just go. But again, when you start getting into how real estate, how do you make money? How does it all work? It really, for me, it started, I wasn't really turned on by it at first. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
I was just like, and that seemed like a lot. But when you start looking at it and you get that first renter and you're like, oh man.
that's when it clicks.
And then you're like, dang, if I paid off this house,
Mhm.
this would pay my current mortgage. So what do we, that's what made it start
Yeah,
making sense.
Right.
yeah,
Like
And
everything that I saw or heard from people speaking, I'm like, oh,
yeah,
and I'm still again in that stage where I'm really trying to digest what I'm understanding, because you're seeing it really happen.
yeah.
You're like, Dad, this person is paying
Paying
this
for me.
person's mortgage, and
Yeah,
this is why they do it like this, because they have a system. And
yeah,
then you
yeah.
get multiple of this. Oh, and then on the back end, you say you got 5 now, and then this whole COVID or whatever the next
mhm.
reset trigger is for the
Right.
economy happens, for the flushing, value goes up. Then you
Mhm.
start looking like, okay, which do I want, this one? Do
Right.
I want, you know what I mean? Because the value is crazy now. So you're like, oh, I can sell one and pay off the 4.
Yeah,
And you know what I'm saying? And then the floodgates open up with that freaking
yeah,
cash flow.
yeah,
And yeah, it is risky, but it's, for me, I'm like, I now start to understand why people get addicted to the duplex, get
mhm.
addicted to single family. Even the one guy, Todd Baldwin, spoke to him
Yeah,
a few times. He sells out. At the time he was renting out rooms. I'm
yeah,
like, there's so many ways that people miss with how you can make money in real estate.
Mhm.
yeah.
Past the am I qualified to go borrow?
Right.
It's a total different game changer when you're talking about building wealth, because it hits you so many different ways, as
Mm.
well as the tax um
Yeah,
sheet. So
yeah,
that it's just astronomical. I love it. But I mean, like I said, I just really love the fact, like Shyra mentioned, yeah, I walk into work, people don't know what
right.
they talking to me, and in my head, I'm like, you really don't know. Like,
Yeah,
I'm fine.
right.
I can really leave, and I'll in 2-3 years, I'm sure I'll find something else
Yeah,
paying more. I'll be fine.
Mhm.
But to your point, the idea of the 65, that's okay if I got to wait there to unlock certain
mm,
income,
Mhm.
but I only get one life. And
yeah,
that's one thing that, again, the journey is kind of in the wealth pack is, okay, you're gonna have to spend some time. You're gonna
yeah,
have to invest some money, you're gonna have to do some things. But if your net result is, instead of my parents, my mom's still working, been working 40 plus years, and that's fine. I don't mind working, but I'm like, working in that capacity, I don't want to necessarily do.
yeah,
Mhm.
And the truth is, there is an option and several options that can help you gravitate to move to where you be 45 and done with corporate
yeah,
America and the W-2 workforce, or however you want to do it, and spend
Right.
your
right.
time with your family. And
Yeah,
Right.
that's the concept that I think is lost. And especially if you do all that, and then, like you said, you're in California, but what if you just take a total different turn and be like, look, we're gonna go stay in Italy, where health is a third of the
right.
cost here, and I can live extremely premium for pennies on the
Yeah,
dollar. What
yeah.
would you say, it as people think about their options in real estate? You've been doing it for a while, or what were some of the things? Well, you got a property manager, so you put the right pieces in place, so you wouldn't really have to deal with it. So you've had a property manager from the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We had to assess our risk tolerance, and
Oh, okay.
we wanted to make sure that we were investing, but doing it in a way that made us feel comfortable. So
Okay.
we set up property managers, and you know, we definitely feel like in the future, maybe when we're done with our W-2, we have more time. We may slide into that role of management. She kind of looking at me.
I
She don't
will
Right.
know.
He
slide.
told me doing
Yeah,
that.
he will slide.
But what you're describing is options,
Yeah,
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 right? So you
yeah,
have options.
mhm,
yeah,
If all you have is your job, I mean, I'll work a job too, but
yeah,
I mean, real estate gives you
yeah,
options.
yeah,
yeah,
Income gives you options. So
yeah.
we're hoping that one day we'll have enough income to where me going into work would be an option.
Yeah. And then as far as like with real estate, you have so many. You said you talked to Todd Baldwin, how he rents out rooms. You can get into that. You can also get into short-term rentals. The Airbnb thing is really hot right now. If you're in an area that's close to an airport or in a happening spot, you could do that, and you can start to scale that. And so just controlling the asset of real estate is so much to it. Like you said, it's even selling at a certain point or going in and getting a line of credit or refi, or there's so many options. So that's one. Those are some reasons why we really like real estate.
Yeah, but I also want to say that anything is a risk.
Yeah.
Okay, we buy houses out of state. I don't feel that I'm taking a big risk. I'm taking a calculated risk.
Exactly.
Clearly, if you are interested in purchasing a property, you're going to do a home inspection.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that no one's ever gone into the property and we're buying them. It's like, no, there's a home inspection that, lets us know if there are any issues or if there are concerns, if there are things, repairs that need to be made. So, and that they're professional. So a home inspector is going to catch things that I would not see,
or my agent wouldn't see.
The agent wouldn't see. The agent, most time they're trying to make a sale, with the naked eye, so exactly. You send a professional in there, and then you vet your real estate agent, Marcus did a great job of doing that. And on our podcast, we have even interviewed our real estate agent. We're pretty transparent. If you dig, you'll see who we're working with, where we're at, what we're doing, and all of that. So it's a risk, but it's calculated.
Yeah.
And you can always walk away. So that's okay. There are certain things that we look for. I don't like stairs. Okay. I am terrified.
Decks and stuff like that.
Of stairs and decks. I know people like decks, but in California, we don't really be doing the deck thing. Like, if you have a deck out here, you're rich, most houses don't come with decks. Right. And I don't like stairs because I don't want nobody tripping and falling and me having to worry about that. But even then, that's why you have insurance.
Exactly.
So when you buy a rental property, and you're an owner, you have insurance for that. You could put that property in an LLC. So as you were talking about moving out of the country where your health insurance costs are low, but I learned that if you have an LLC, you can write off your health insurance. Come on. So it doesn't. I don't want it to seem so scary. And I don't want people to think that we're rich, because we're not. We have average salaries. Okay. I'm not a doctor. I'm in social services.
And you stay in Cali too. So like the grind is definitely real there. But like I said, that's one of the things that for me was the draw, because again, even working in the bank and financial services, I see people who literally, when I pull up their account, they have millions. And then I look at them and I look at what they drove in, and I'm like, you wouldn't, like, you look like the guy in the grocery store that was just getting some fruit. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the other side of that story that, again, really a lot of this stuff just kind of resonated with me was when I would tell people, oh, where are you going? Well, me and my wife were traveling here. Like, I think at the time we were going to Australia, and the guy was 67. His wife was a little bit older. He was like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we're just now starting traveling. And in my head, I'm like, you just now starting traveling. I'm like, I looked at his account and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it, because I'm like, I don't want to get to the end of my life. And I think most people are like that. That's what challenges them with the whole wealth thing. They believe you have to do 30 years of this work journey, whatever. And if you do 30 years, you're right. If you're only putting $500,000 in your 401k, it's going to take you 30 years to get there. If you fill your financial life with more things, like you said, you got a property manager, but also like you said, you guys had a strategy. You knew you you did too, like back to back, and you knew you would probably scale from there. So like getting a property manager, it might seem expensive on the first one, but long term, you're like, oh, I already have this in place. I don't have to vet. That's going to be a good resource. And because of the distance, you can sleep easy at night. The other thing is, I think the debt-free thing helps with, like you said, the fearlessness. Because if you understand what is your current situation, that's why you have fear. So if you don't have emergency fund, or you got a lot of things pulling at you and your money is already tight, taking on one more payment, you're like, oh man, what if I don't have renter? That's true, because you hear horror stories about that. But I mean, have you had a lot of vacancies throughout your time?
No, because because we're investing out of state, we're not doing like flips, and we're not, you know what I'm saying? So we're buying houses that are, for the most part, move-in ready. And that is what, we would recommend if you're investing out of state. Many times the property manager will have contractors and they can do work for you, or they can facilitate that work happening, but many times it moves slow. So it's important to just have a house that's move-in ready.
Close to move-in ready. Yeah, that's what we shoot for. And I think the longest vacancy we had was maybe a few months. A lot of times
you hear stories of. And I mean, I don't think that happens, but like, look at the national stats of that.
Yeah. And to that point, we have one property that's completely paid off.
Oh man!
And so that property is kind of like our rock. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so if somebody else for some reason didn't pay their rent, we have it covered. You know what I'm saying? Like, it'll be covered. And the other thing is, we don't live off of our rental income. We don't live on it. We don't rely on it, because we're building a business. Like, we're still planting seeds. We're not.
We gonna go live off this.
No, we don't touch it. It's an investment. Just like you wouldn't invest in the stock market and the next month start pulling it out. That's a long-term game. You know what I'm saying? Play game, whatever. It's the same thing with our rental property. We don't live off that. This is an investment. So it's another thing to consider.
So good. What have you said? Because obviously you guys, you've been married for a while, and I'd be wrong if I didn't ask married people who did all this stuff. How did you really develop ways to become strong partners in this process? Because it's difficult. I'm not gonna say everybody has their strength. I'm married, and there are things that we're doing. What is it? 5 years next month.
Man, congrats.
We're at 59 months this month. So
that's good. Great.
But it's a lot of learning. So one of the things that I think we've started to develop is, like, me and my wife, I'm like, what you're great at, that's what you give. You know what I mean? If you give what you're great at, it's not always going to be portionate. You know what I mean? Right. What have you found taking on all this responsibility, or how is that? What are things that have helped you be able to take on all these next steps?
Man.
We were just having a conversation this morning. Is it okay if I say it, Marques?
Yeah, I feel like the learning never stops.
Yeah, man. We were just having a conversation this morning about who should make up the bed. Should it be the last person out the bed? I'm saying it's the last person out the bed because my husband is usually the last person out the bed, and I kind of want him to do it. Right. So, and so we'll be at 15 years in May. 15 years of marriage. Wow. And so we still have these
really remedial but I think the key is we talk through a lot of stuff, like even when we're not seeing eye to eye, we'll like sit there and talk it through until it's like we finally hit that breakthrough. I think a lot of times, and it's different everywhere, because sometimes people need space. Sometimes there may be some discussions was like, what, we just got to take a break. We'll come back to this. Yeah. But I think for us, communication is if it's not in the moment, we will always circle back and try to talk it through and find an understanding. I think the longer we've been married, something that we never knew was there, but obviously it is like agree to disagree. Like, that was such a light bulb moment for us, because for like the first half of our marriage, maybe even more than that, it was like somebody had to, like, it was right. Only over when someone was right and the other apologized, right? Yeah. But then, as in our latter years, we was like, we could have just agreed to disagree and nobody has to win or lose. Right. Like,
exactly.
Wow, what a concept. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, Marques, maybe you talk about this, like, money personalities. So that's something
that's big.
Yeah, there was like a book called like the 5 Money Personalities or something like that. And so in taking a look at those, I learned that I am a security seeker. And Marcus,
risk taker.
Marcus is a risk taker. He ready to put everything on black. Like Marcus is a risk taker.
Oh, black.
So yeah,
go ahead.
No, I'm saying it's very similar to like the love language theory. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it has to do with money. So the key to that is once you know what your partner is, now you know how to move.
Right.
A lot of times we're like dealing with our partner in the dark, like, well, I'm this, why aren't you that? You know.
And you also know what moves you can actually take.
Yes.
And that's important. Like a lot of people don't realize when you're trying to do something with money, you got a partner that's really not going to jive with them.
Yes.
And I'm like, it ain't even no point in you trying to consider. It could be a very prosperous option.
Right.
It doesn't matter. They never go and get on board. So you might as well find a different highway to go down.
Bro. I mean, I watch some of these guys, and like they'll be like single men, and they doing this swaggy investing or this type of thing. I'm like, nah, that's not for me, because I have a partner, so we have to. Our strategy is going to look different, you know. So that's one thing to know. And when you know your partner's money personality, then you know how to even finesse and have a conversation. Like, I really want to do this.
Not manipulate,
but it's like Shyra needs to see it written out. Whereas for me, I'm ready to move off of just talking it through, where she may I want to see numbers. It's like, cool. So if I show you numbers, I'll probably get the outcome that I desire. So it's just like, once you know that, you can really communicate better with your spouse.
So good. No, you guys are excellent. Like I said, I definitely want to be respectful of your time. I so appreciate you guys coming in, really having the conversation, talking through your thing. And like I said, it's always more when you get to speak with people to the story that often comes out. You might have to listen to 7 videos to really piece together what really happened. But it's so important. And I mean, you guys, again, you're doing it. And so that in itself is inspiring. And I like the piece, like you said, with Shyra, like being quiet, building wealth is truly like, I got a best kept secret. Like, you talk about your money journey all the time, but it's something about when you go to work and you just listen and you hear the calls different, you hear everything people talking about is different. But most importantly, what I would want people to get from it is you have an opportunity, and you have a multitude of opportunities that can help you get there. It's where is it you're trying to go? And that may change a little bit as you're going down the road. But if you know for sure, hey, I ain't trying to work at this job till I'm 65, 70.
Right.
I mean, that's a decision to at least get you to start something different.
Yeah.
Where can the people find you? Just so I can have it, and I'll put it down in the description below and post it in the group as well. But where can they find you? Connect with you guys.
Oh man, well, thank you, Jonathan, for having us on, man. It's good to always connect with like-minded individuals. So this has been fun for us. For anyone who wants to find us, the main hub you can find all of what we do is blackmarrieddebtfree.com. You have access to our podcast. We're available anywhere you listen to podcasts. And then also we're fairly active on Instagram at Black Married Debt Free, and YouTube. Just plug in Black Married Debt Free or Black Married and Debt Free, either one, and you should see our content there. So yeah, man, thank you.
It's so good, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Take it, go talk to your spouse, take it, go digest to yourself, because there's still some things I gotta digest, because I mean, you guys are just so wise. But it's just so fun seeing people just doing it, you know what I mean, just doing the thing. We're not all aspirations. I mean, we could go all there, but the fact is, I love seeing people who are actually doing it. And I so appreciate you guys coming in the group. Hey, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, but definitely we'll connect you with their info, and I'll see you guys next time.
All right.
Let's see.